Welcome, world language teachers. I am so glad that you are here for World Lang Wednesday. Today, we are talking all about how to actually find the best, most spicy and spectacular authentic texts for your Spanish, French, Italian, whatever classroom. And we're going to do it in a way that you can find things much faster than you're used to finding them. And also in a way where you can find things that your students, I don't know, actually like and want to engage with the resources. So are you ready to dive in? I'm so excited to be here with you today. If you are live with me, come say hey in the comments below. I'm just going to be checking, making sure that everything's working. I see y'all. Hello. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited to have you. So I'm checking in the comments and that we are good to go. Y'all, this is going to be a great class. So who am I? Hi, my name's Devin. If we have never met before, it is so nice to meet you. I am a curriculum specialist and resource creator for middle school and high school world language teachers. I used to teach Spanish and French, levels 1 and 2, and now I create resources for Spanish and French teachers full time. And so today, what I'm going to do is show you how I have streamlined this process of finding authentic texts that help you to maximize your target language use in class because they're such amazing tools. But they also can be something that we spend way too much time trying to find. Authentic texts are an invaluable resource to our world language classroom, but we can also really get lost in the weeds. So let me share with you first. Hi, Emily. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm waving at the phone like a psycho, like you can see me that way. But I'm so glad that you're here. Where are you coming from? I'm in Charleston. So I got some nice bright sun behind me. It feels great, y'all. This week it's been so nice. It's a little chilly in the morning, but it's beautiful in the afternoon. Like all the pink is gone from my hair because I've been sitting in the sun while it's been nice out. It's freaking beautiful. I love it. So tell me where you're coming from and how the weather has been in your corner of the world. But I'm celebrating with some sun. When it comes to authentic text, something to keep in mind too, and the reason why I came up with the idea for this class specifically for Wolang Wednesday. If you're new to the community for Wolang Wednesday, I'm so glad that you're here. But I do this every Wednesday because I love hanging out with you. And something that teachers were talking about while I was sharing about virtual field trips last week and how to create virtual field trips. I'll drop a link in this after the class. I'll drop a link for that class if you want to watch that one too. It was really good. You're going to love it. But during that class, I use a lot of authentic text during my virtual field trips. And I think that you should too, because it's a great way to present a country, right? And to immerse people in a whole lifestyle, right? Where you can really see that. Oh, you're in Burlington, Vermont? Oof. Is it warm yet? Will it ever be warm? Will it ever? It's such a beautiful state, though. I love Vermont. But for authentic text, one of the questions that I asked teachers was, how long do you spend finding authentic texts? And across the board, for the teachers that were there, they said, oh, down the rabbit hole. So raise your hand if that's you. Give me a hand raise if that's you. Do you spend hours sometimes on the weekends looking for authentic text? Like, don't be shy. It's okay if it's you, because I was talking to a teacher on Zoom last week. Melinda, if you're here, hey. But we were chatting about how, like, sometimes looking for authentic text is really fun. I used to do it for fun sometimes because I love just watching other people in, my love of languages. I loved watching them just talk and absorb all that beautiful language. And we can really get sucked into it. And, that's fine if you're doing it on your weekends because it's fun and you're just chilling. But because you're, of course, like expanding your brain and learning your language better and all that stuff. But how many of you do that during your planning time? Because I used to do it all the time. And it's not a good system, right? Because then you will get down sucked in a rabbit hole. So if that's you, give me my hand raises. Where are we at? Ooh, Emily's got middle school, French and Spanish. Emily's with New Orleans. Yes, so exciting. Hello, Anna, welcome. All right, I'm going to make myself, I'm going to be very honest with you. I don't know what flag that is. Anna, where are you watching from? What is that flag? What is that flag? That's so cool. I'm really excited that we have some international audiences here. Hand raise. Yeah, Emily, for real though. It is a thing. It is an absolute thing. Emily, we got New Orleans here. I just had some Spanish speaking friends read a story. We've been going over to hear different accents and voices than mine. That's a really good idea, but it's not sustainable. I hear you on that. I'm really glad that you mentioned that because yeah, like it's a great idea to do new things every now and then. But the reason that you're here is because I bet you're ready for a simple tool that's a little bit more sustainable so that you can use this more often. Because authentic texts were my absolute favorite resources to use in the classroom, like hands down above all else. And you want to know why? I'm going to tell Poland. Oh, thank you, Anna. Thank you for telling me that. Guys, Nalan is in the house. Y'all, give it up for the practical and comprehensible queen. I'm so glad that you're here. Nalan, how was your teaching day today? I'm so glad that you're here. That's awesome. Y'all, she's one of our presenters and she's the queen of technology and everything Microsoft. So she knows all of the things. And she is really good at incorporating all kinds of target language, cool things. Like she is also really good at escape rooms. So just saying, just want to shout you out there. I'm so glad that you're here. Oh, I'm just so excited. Guys, I'm getting distracted. Emily, you got first day of mud season? All right, but let's get into this. I love you all so much. I'm so glad that you're here. Thanks for being with me. But to authentic text, something that I want to speak to today is that the reason that I use authentic text, and maybe you are ready to raise your hand for this one too, is that I will be completely honest with you that as a teacher who did two languages, I did Spanish and French, my target language is not really where I would like it to be. So I always struggled with that golden 90% target language use all the time. It was always my golden goose, and I could never really quite get there, but I tried all the time. And since I knew that my language wasn't quite where I wanted it to be in both Spanish and French, you know what I did? Because I have the benefit of speaking both, which is awesome. But it also means that I don't have some of the really in-depth expertise that those of you who are Spanish teachers really do. Like since I have both, it's more spread thin. You know what I mean? If you're interested in that concept too, Bill Van Patten talks about this on his podcast and with, of course, his other amazing hosts, Angelica and others. I can't remember the other guy's name right now, but there's other people on that podcast where if you have more than one languages and you're learning them at the same time, you often get a little bit spread out and you don't reach as far as you would like to. So if you feel that, if you have ever experienced that where you're like, oh, madness but fun. Oh, I'm glad you had fun today. Yay. You are special. You are special. That authentic videos are a great way to substitute your own voice in the classroom so that you don't have to constantly be the source of input all the time. However, if you are trying to go with that approach, like that's how I got really, 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 pero really good at finding authentic texts quickly and efficiently and things that my students would really like because I use them at least 3 or 4 times a week. They were an integral part of my lesson plans. And now that I'm a resource creator full time, they're an integral part of my resources. So let's jump right in and get to this amazing class that I have for you today. Now we have a hard stop today at 3:10 because I have to go pick up my little at school today. So we're going to jump right into this, but I want to make sure that I am hanging out in the comments here too. All right, so we're going to be right here in Google Chrome. Okay, can you give me a thumbs up that you can see this and that everything looks good? Let me know. I'm going to keep rolling on it. Y'all, we have a whole party here today. This is so exciting. I'm so glad that you are here. But it looks like we're good. All right, great. If you have never used this tool before, this is my new replacement for PowerPoint. Like PowerPoint is, I mean, I don't want to say it's out, but it's out. I much prefer this tool now, canva.com. It's free. I have a paid version because I like I'm a tech person. You know, yeah. Okay, good. Thank you, Anna. maybe you feel me with that. I'm a tech person and this has all kinds of fun tech things. So I have the paid version for this. But y'all, I will be completely honest with you that this took me very little time to make and it looks really good. So this is something that you can use in your classroom as well. If you need to lessen your prep time and stop worrying about format, but you're like me and you still want things to look good. Okay. Like you still want things to look good. Canva.com. This is a template that I used. So we're going to talk today about how to find authentic text quickly that students actually like. Here's my first tip for you. Think like your students. Think like your students. What are things that they are watching at home? So this is where it really becomes important. All of those moments that you're already really good at when it comes to building relationships with your students. All of those moments in between when they're doing work and they're talking about what they're watching and the fact that their viewing habits have changed. So I'm sure that you've noticed that. I'm so glad you're in Canva. OMG. Yeah. Okay, good. So then Nilan, you need to use this for a classroom lesson. Canva.com. It's so easy to use. I'm not even in presentation mode right now. I'm just showing you the template that I have right now. We can totally do a class all about Canva and how I've completely changed my presentation habits and use that. If you'd be into that, I'm all for it. I could do all the things Canva. Let me know in the comments, y'all, if you'd like to do a class on Canva and how I use this to present, because I did this while I left the classroom this June. So while I was doing quarantine teaching for those horrific 3 months, y'all were there, you know what it was like. I used a lot of Canva too to do synchronous and asynchronous lessons as well, so that I could manage the whole Zoom thing, because PowerPoint wasn't really working for me for that. It wasn't as versatile. Think like your students when it comes to authentic text in terms of what are they watching and what do they like to consume. Students no longer watch TV. So, and they don't really consume the web the way that you consume the web. I mean, I'm 28, so I'm not even that far of a distance from my high schoolers who are 17 and 18. They consume the web and materials differently than I do. So it's definitely an exercise in empathy of knowing the things that you already know about them and listening to them. What do they like to consume? They follow YouTube channels. They're following influencers and TikTokers. Like, it doesn't matter what you think about it or whether it's a good or bad thing, like use it in your favor. You know, it was one of the most popular things and what people remember about my Dia de Muertos lesson 2 years ago is I pulled up a YouTube video of the Snapchat stories. Is everybody like following like with what I'm going along here? If you have Snapchat, then you know the stories are things that if you have Snapchat, you know that you can go based on location and you can see what people are taking pictures of depending on the city or location. And it's actually where Instagram got their stories from, a little bit of social media history. But I pulled up a YouTube video of all of the Snapchat stories from Dia de Muertos 2019. I just typed in Snapchat stories because Snapchat does this whole really beautiful cultural highlight reel every time that there's a major global holiday to celebrate what people are doing around the world. That's how your students are consuming culture, and it's awesome. Have you noticed? I've noticed, and I think it's amazing. And I don't think that we should be like poo-pooing it. We should be celebrating it, that we are learning more. Let's just go ahead and go with this example right here. This is a Chrome tab. Have you noticed that we're learning more about history and all kinds of representation and the actual real history that we need to know? We're learning more about that from Google Doodles than we are from our textbooks. Like, your students are in an amazing point of history where all of the media around them, like, they no longer need to rely on us for information. They have access to everything. So what I want you to think of yourself as is less of the teacher and more of the facilitator. You're more of the guide. And think like your students when it comes to looking at what type of media your students are going to like. So what do I mean by think like your students? What type of media do they like? And use that in your search terms. That is how you are instantly going to get buy-in for whatever topic, even if it's kind of a topic that's a little difficult to talk about. What type of media do they like? Because they'll instantly be engaged and they'll know how to engage with it. And you don't also, full stop here, you don't have to be any kind of social media expert or wizard in order to show off things that your students are consuming. I do not have Snapchat. Ugh. I never go on Instagram. Like the only time I ever go on Instagram is to interact with y'all. I am not a social media person. My friends know that about me, that if they want to get in contact with me, that they need to, that we text and that we call. I'm not a social media person, but I know how my kids think. And I know that that's how they interact. So what type of media do they like? Use the formats that students already like. Influencers, and I will say that YouTubers and blogs are kind of your best friend when it comes to things like this. And that teenagers that are creating content are not your enemy. Oh my God, they're your best friend. They're your best friend. Instant buy-in when you're watching something that is the same age as your students. So powerful, that content. Now, here's how we get into the nitty-gritty. Okay, this is the most important thing. If you get nothing out of this class, this is the most important part. What words do you use when you are searching for authentic texts? Let's think about one of the things that I was searching for let's go back to that month of maybe like April 2020. I was looking for something that would be really interesting for my students, and I had to teach asynchronously. And I had to create a resource, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, I want my students to also know what quarantine is like in other countries. How are other people dealing with this? How are other students dealing with this? So this is what I did, and this is what I want you to do. When you're looking for authentic text on YouTube, this is how you go from spending lots of time on YouTube to only spending 3 minutes. You pick very targeted keywords and you type the way that you would type if you were looking for specific information. So I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to pretend that I'm a student, and I'm going to go to YouTube and I'm going to say, okay, I need help. How are people studying in quarantine right now? Because I would love to talk about that with my students. Right now we're studying, at that point we were studying like school supplies, and we were going over school supplies and also like habits and routines. So what can I find on here? So I typed this in. Look at this gold, absolute gold, absolute gold. Okay, so you got a 10-minute video here. I don't know, I've never seen it, but I can already tell it's probably really funny. Consejos para estudiar desde casa. Genius, genius. Tips for online classes. Estudia sin excusas. All right, this is the one that I want to show you here. This was the one that I found, and I made a whole resource about it because I was so obsessed with it. Because this video goes through, and like we won't watch it here, but this video goes through an entire thing of how this student in Spain has changed his daily routine from the regular going to college and university and all that stuff to his new routine of studying at home, how difficult it is for him. And he also goes through of showing all of these different, let's see if I can get through this ad and I can show you here, how he goes through the whole experience of changing his routine. It was the coolest thing ever. So he goes through, but the reason I want to show you this here is because this is going to be, and I'm going to make sure that I show you this at the end too. This is the most important part too, is why I love using YouTubers is you can turn on subtitles. So part of the thing that I want you to notice about everything that you're doing in here is that there is a way for you to, and we got ads again, but there is a way for you to very easily make these accessible to your students when you're working with YouTube if you turn on the subtitles. Almost every video that I've found that's on the first or second page of YouTube, I can't speak to the third because I never go to the third page, That's another thing for time. You got to keep yourself a limit. Is if you turn on the captions and if you show your students how to turn on the captions, they'll be much less likely to complain about, I can't hear it, or it's so fast, or I don't understand any of that. It's really, really helpful for that. Now, when it comes to more good search terms for this, here's something else that I want you to think about here. Here's another one that I was looking for here. So the other day I was making a resource, and I'll show it to you real quick. I was making a resource for La Martinique, a virtual field trip for Martinique. And the focus of the field trip was Carnaval and how amazing Carnaval is. So here's what I did is I typed in, because YouTubers are really good at this, is I typed in Carnaval. So if you're looking for a specific event or a holiday, do this. Holiday, country. Don't just do a generic thing. Like if you're trying to do something along the lines of, I'm thinking of a holiday. What's coming up? Oh, Pascua or Pâques. Put in a country, you'll get better, more specific videos and articles. I'm in YouTube right now, but you'll know what I mean. And then go to the year. Y'all, I was so excited when I found this, because you know what I found? This video, which is absolute gold. We're not going to spend time watching it here, but this video is all about how the people in Martinique ignored the whole order to not leave their houses and not do a whole parade for Carnaval, because it's such a deep part of their culture that what they decided to do was, we're going to put on masks and we're going to ignore the order anyways. And they just stormed the streets and did Carnaval, not business as usual by any means, but an adjusted, edited version of it. And it blew up the internet, all of the things that happened during Carnaval. Just imagine all of the things that you could talk about with your students for that. Where are my French teachers at? Like, how excited are you to show this to your students? It was so cool. And it's crazy relevant too. And it's only 3 minutes, but it shows like some footage of them going through the streets. It talks people's opinions about the fact that like, this is Carnaval, like we're going to do it anyways. And some video footage of what people are doing. And then of course, since it's short, you can preview it and make sure that it's appropriate for your students, that kind of deal. And shows cool footage of all these people celebrating Carnaval, like all throughout the streets, and all the cool lights and everything that they did. And again, there's subtitles and closed captions for it. Another thing that you can do is that, I think it's in here, if I remember correctly, but oh yeah, right here. Here's another beautiful thing that you can do in here, is this little button right here, open transcript. Open transcript right here. And you'll be able to see every single word, and you'll be able to pause and all of the things. Really, really helpful. All right, so let's go back to some more tips. Who's excited to look up Carnaval now? I don't know if it's still going on in Martinique right now. I know it's still going on in the Dominican because they do it for a full year. Now you might be thinking, how am I going to find search terms? Okay, so because search terms is really the key to quickly finding the types of things that you need. So let's open up a new tab in Google here. How to's, where to, 10 best things. Okay, so these are some things that I was searching lately. So let's see. The Belgique, I've been looking up lately. Que faire? If you are looking and you're using the same types of words that you would use when you're planning a trip, especially if you're trying to look in a country, you'll find the most amazing, very specific posts, all kinds of good things. So that's what I mean by make sure that what words do you use when you're searching on YouTube? Like when you're trying to think of like, how do I change a tire? Type that in. If you're doing a unit that's all about car parts, I know I did that in French 4. We did a whole thing on car parts. Do that. In Le pneu crevé, comment le changer? Like put that in YouTube and you'll find all these cool videos that you can use. Because like that's all the how-tos. Search terms from your vocab lists and you'll find all of these great things that you probably wouldn't have thought of. Something I also want to bring to your attention is back to this idea of, where was it? What are students actually going to like? What type of media are they consuming? Something that your students are all doing, no matter who they are or what they're into. Oh, where do you find the transcript button on YouTube? Okay, I will go back to that. Oh, thank you. Thank you for saying I dropped serious gems. I'm just here to serve y'all because I love you so much. And I'm so glad that you're into authentic text just as much as I am. So where do you find the transcript button on YouTube? Let's go right back to it because I'm going to show you something really cool on here where you'll be able to see it. Let me see here. Okay. So I'm working, this is a work in progress. I'm not done with this right now, but I was looking up things for how to travel on Belgique, like que faire en Bruges in une journée. Let's see, what was okay, so this was a good one. All right, so another thing that might come up for you, let's go ahead and open up this one because this is a YouTube video. I still got the sound off, right? Okay, so here's where we go. Sorry, I might have to move some things so that we can see it. All right, so to open up the transcript button, this one actually is really helpful because this video specifically, I could drop this link for you if anybody's studying Belgium. You can see that it's got, I picked this video for the resource because it has captions, which is really cool. But if you go to the very bottom right corner where these 3 dots are, next to the save, you open this up. And underneath report, don't report it unless you need to. There's a part that says open transcript. Click. There it is. Applause, music, applause, music. This one doesn't have any, oh, you know what? This one doesn't have anybody speaking. Let's do a better example so that you can see. Was it here? Let me show you a better example so you can see it. Oh, here it is. Okay, so this is a really good example of where I actually really needed the transcript because this individual in particular was amazing. This video is really good, but there was some adult language in one tiny, tiny part of the video. So I needed some help with it. Okay, so we got the captions on and I opened up the transcript to look at it. So how many of you have gotten really frustrated because you found this great authentic video that you wanted to use with your students and then, dang it, there's a curse word? Raise your hand. Raise your hand if that's ever happened to you. Caroline, transcript might not be an option for all videos, right? So yes, sometimes that does happen. And so this was what I would recommend to you. Anything that has a higher amount of views is by somebody who usually knows what they're doing. So it's either a professional organization or like this person is a professional YouTuber and they usually have transcripts. So I prefer to use videos with transcripts. Anything that has a larger number of views will have transcripts. But most of the things that I've been finding on YouTube in the past year, I would say, because I've been on there a lot, is almost all of them have them. So, but yeah, I would say that not all of them would have that option. That's a really great thing to bring up. I'm glad that you asked that. But for this video in particular, this dude is très charmant. He's so charmant, but also he does this great walking tour of all the fun things that you can do in Brussels. And there's this one moment, and it's not even that bad, but you know, like it's YouTube, it's a thing. And I won't show it here because it is a little bit foul. But he's talking about how beautiful the forest is. And he says, make sure that you stay on the pathway because if you step on it and you crunch it, it's gonna bleep it all up. Like he's trying to make sure that you're protecting the beauty of the natural landscape here, but please, you know, stay on the pathway. Don't screw up the other landscape. You know, he's just speaking like he speaks. It only happens once. It's one curse word. And my personal view on this, like, take it or leave it. I always warn my users that, like, there's some adult language in there, but I will tell you that this is how I handled curse words in authentic videos. It couldn't be a lot, but I taught high schoolers, so I had a little bit more of a tolerance for it. But this is what I used to do. And let me know what you think of this approach. Everybody's a little bit different about this. But for me, especially with French, it could be a little bit different if you have, I didn't have nearly as many heritage speakers in my French classes as I did my Spanish ones. So I'll use my French as an example. In your French classes, do you have any idea how much interest you're going to draw up if you pause the video and say, there's a curse word in this portion, so we're gonna have to just scoot by it for just a second, and then we'll jump right back in. Do you know what they do? Talk about making that video instantly more interesting. Do you know what happened almost every time I did that? They would say, oh, why can't we watch that part? I wanna watch that part. What's the curse word? And they would go home and look it up. And they would spend all this time trying to figure it out. They would ask me for the link to the video. They would try and tell me, like, Prof Gunning, where's the timestamp on that? Like, show, they would get so into the fact, like, just because, oh, c'est interdit, like, oh, because it's not allowed now they want to know what the curse word is. I'm telling you that instead of being like, dang it, now I can't use that resource. Also, like, I'm from Philly, so I don't really have that much of a problem with curse words. I also have played rugby almost my whole life. I don't have that much of a problem with curse words. So it might be a personal thing, but I found that if you presented curse words in another language as a cultural thing and appropriately in your classroom, not to glorify them, but you can really use them as a hook for those little mind in the gutter middle schooler and high schoolers, because they are gonna want to find out what the curse words are. They're so interested. It's such a good hook. I've done that tactic for 3 years. Never, in my classroom when I was still in it, I never got in trouble. I never had anybody call home about it. But you know what I did have? I had a ton of students going home and on their own time looking up the same videos I showed in class so they could figure out where the curse words are. So I think it works really well. But it is completely up to you and what your comfort level is with that, because, you know, that's very much a personal choice. But that's also really helpful with transcripts, is that it will help you catch some of those more slangier terms. I will say, though, that anything that is inappropriate, let's say I only stick to the 4-letter words, things that are very much like clear cut, not disrespectful of anybody, like those are the only ones that fly. Anything that goes into the realm of truly inappropriate, that is just never okay in your classroom. That's just never okay. And that's not okay to show to students either. They can look that up on their own time. But anything that's kind of graphic or any of that nature, find another video. It's not worth it. But in an occasion like this, I would say that this specific instance, it was one word, it's one 4-letter word, and he's using it just because he's being casual, not by any means to offend anybody. So that's my view on that. I think that you can definitely use that little bit of interest with just a little flavor, a little spice of foul language in your favor. All right, so let's wrap this up with use some of the formats that students already like. I also think that if you are in the unfortunate position where YouTube is blocked at your district, I've been in that position before, it is the pits. It is the worst. Here's how you can handle this. If you are a person who likes looking up authentic videos on your own time, then you can download them and use things that, like, YouTube Converter websites. I don't know what they are anymore off the top of my head, but they definitely exist. Save them on your school computer as an MP4 and use those videos for life. There's no reason that you need to find the same videos over and over again. That's another thing for when it comes to saving time for creating content and finding authentic videos, is that you don't need to find new content all the time. The Day of the Dead video library that I used with my Spanish class, I used the same 6 videos for 3 years. I used just once. I spent 2 hours going down the rabbit hole, finding 6 authentic videos that I really liked for a 1-week culture unit, and I never had to do it again. I saved those videos to a Google Doc with a couple questions to go with it, and I was done. right, so we went over this already. Search terms from your vocab list or cultural things. This last thing that I want to show you, right? Is this the last thing? Yeah. We got two more things. These two things are going to save you a lot of time, and then we'll wrap this up. Craft meaningful, achievable, and open-ended questions when it comes to working with authentic documents. So if you are looking at an article, for example, let me see if I have an example off the top of my head. I think I do with Belgique. I do here. Yeah, Voyage Belgique. This is a great one. So for this article here, I found this one just by typing in the word comment voyager en Belgique, like que faire en Belgique, what to do in Belgium. With this, do not in a million years, like this is a great article about where you could go, but do not in a million years write specific questions for this specific resource. I really think that we spend way too much time doing that because we want to catch students. We're trying to make sure that they're going through the whole resource, but they're not going to do that. I didn't even do that. Here's what you can do to make sure that students are still using the authentic resource in a way that's meaningful. Ask them to pull out 10 words from this resource. Can you pull out 10 words from this resource that you know what it means? Ask them, you could even maybe do it in English. Ernie agrees. You could even maybe do it in English and ask them something like, what parts of this are going to help you to get from the airport to your lodging? And you could even ask that question in French too. What part of this website is going to get you to certain cities? Open-ended, attainable questions. I really think that we as teachers need to steer away from the very specific gotcha types of questions because they take a million years to create per resource and they only take students 2 minutes to complete and they're not really thinking that much while they're doing them. If you can find more open-ended questions where they're doing something with this resource and they're actually using it, it's okay if they're not spending as much time with it. Let me show you an example of something that they could do. This particular resource asks students they have a budget, and with all of the links that are provided in the virtual field trip, and you could do something similar, they have to make a budget. They have $400 par jour per day, and they have to pick a hotel, an attraction that they're going to go to, and a restaurant. It doesn't mean that they're going to visit every hotel and every restaurant that's mentioned on here because there's multiple, but they get to pick. But they still have to come out with $400 per day. Like they're sticking to a very strict budget for this. So there's still a task to it. That is a way that I think that you can make sure that your students are still accountable. If you give them a task rather than an info-based question, it's going to save you a lot of time because this did not take me any time to come up with the idea. It took me time for the formatting, but like you don't have to worry about that. Meaningful, achievable, open-ended questions. Since we're talking about the theme of travel or even with routines, let me show you this. So for routines, if you're doing the whole how to estudiar desde casa, I told you I made a whole resource for this because I'm obsessed with this video. It's so much fun. And in here, you can also find the transcript instructions. What I did for this one is I had students describe cómo es una cuarentena, what is quarantine like? And they had to type in here what there is and what there is not based on the video. Describe this. Does he like this part? Does he not like this part? And list some things from here. So that's a way that you can work with the video, especially if it's a YouTuber, is allow your students to show you what they know instead of trying to catch them for what they don't know. I hope that makes sense to you. Please let me know if it doesn't. And then this is my last one, and this is how we are going to close out this bad boy here. You do not have to stick to academic tools to get academic results. I'm a firm believer in this. There are so many cool academic tools out there. Like you can do all kinds of authentic texts that are maybe attached to your textbook. I used to have cool links that were on there that were pre-recorded things from like classroom conversations between students that were authentic voices. Those are so cool, and they're already done, and they might have some questions that go with them. Go on with your bad self. Those are great. But the most engaging things are stuff that is in a format that your students really, that they already like. And so you don't have to use very formalized resources to get those really high quality academic results. The sun is like blinding right now. So I'm going to close this out here with the idea that authentic texts are some of the most valuable things that you can use in your classroom, but they don't have to take you all day to do it. Let's review some of the ways that you can shorten that time frame here. You can, oh, you're so welcome. Thank you so much for being here. You can, first of all, frame it from the lens of the people who are consuming your content, your students. What are they talking about right now? Like, I know last year, all my students were watching mukbang videos. So look up mukbang videos from the country that you're studying. Or if you're doing a food unit, you can just watch mukbang videos in Italian all day long. Like, that's a really fun class. Stay away from the very specific to the video questions because they take a lot of time to craft. You're going to be sitting there watching the video over and over and over again, and they're not fun for students to do. They're going to be disengaged right away. If you can find something that's along the lines of a task, like craft a response to Maik's video, to his routine. What would you do differently? What do you like about his room? What do you not like about his room? Because then they're showing you a little bit of a higher level without having to up their level of language understanding. They get to show you what they know instead of you having to do a gotcha, and it takes you a lot less time. Also, refine that search term that you're using, whether it be an article, whether you're finding some social media, whether you're finding authentic blog posts. Today, I showed you a lot of examples from YouTube and how you can find transcripts and things like that in YouTube. But the best way to manipulate YouTube and search engines like that is to type in keywords in the target language exactly the way that you would. And stick to the best of your ability to videos that are on the first 1 to 2 pages and be very, very specific. Like, the more, there's so much content out there. So the more specific your words are, the better the videos you're going to be. And the more engaged your students are going to be with the material that you're finding. That's what I got for you today. Did you like it? I hope you loved it. Come and join me next week where we're going to have another class. Now I'm thinking that it needs to be about Canva because that would be really, really fun. This is so helpful. Think of more open-ended questions and tasks. Yes, Jenny, you know what? That would be a great idea for a class too, is because we could talk about that all day long, right? Is switching from that idea, because I taught all novice learners. And so the way that I learned it was we've got to do very specific to the text questions, right? Like, so we got to be able to, they have to be able to pull out this word or this phrase, right? But that's actually not as effective as we think it is. That would be a great, great class. Oh, thank you so much, Debbie. I'm so glad that you're here. Dawn, what's up? So glad that you're here. Hi, Jane. Oh, I'm so glad that you agree. Y'all, it has been such a joy to hang out with you. Let me know in the comments afterwards what you think would be a great class for this month, because I'm actually crafting the list for what we're going to be doing for the next few Wednesdays. So shoot me a line. Let me know what else you would like to learn about. But right now, I'm definitely thinking that we need to do a class about Canva and about open-ended tasks for novice learners. That would be a really cool class. But I'm going to wrap it up. I got to go pick up my little darling. So I will see y'all next week. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Ciao. Au revoir.